Museum Digit
2020.
A Magyar Nemzeti Múzeum online
virtuális konferenciája.
Hi everyone, I'm Diane Ribet. I'm the founder of We Are Museums, an international community of museum changemakers advocating for people and the planet. I am very, very glad to be here and being able to contribute today to such an essential gathering of museum professionals and innovators. In the next 15 minutes, I'll do my best to describe how museums can become changemakers. These changemakers will shape, hopefully, better futures. The more our planet is endangered, the more I look at nature to make sense of everything. Natures evolve at a different speed than ours and at a fundamentally different scale as well. Getting inspired by nature can help us to leverage social and environmental change at a local and systemic level and move towards better futures for people and the planet. With 3.8 billion years of research and development, nature should be seen as our main mentor. The world we are in cannot work on a competitive model anymore. The systems ruling our society today are not generating models made to last. While in nature, there is no waste. Everything is reused and everything has a role and a job. Monoculture, efficiency, optimizations are not fertile models anymore. A few weeks ago, we organized an online meetup on the online community of We Are Museums with the director of the Women's Museum in Aarhus in Denmark, Julie Rocker-Birch. She explained us the history of the museum, which actually started from a feminist grassroots movement in the 80s. And she also told us that the museum is about to become a museum of gender, from a women's museum to a gender museum. She explained that during the spring lockdown, her team started to collect stories of people, but not any kind of stories. She told us how it was crucial for them to start collecting the now, the moment, the present, in order to make sense of everything in the future. Her team started to collect stories of gender-based violence. And I heard recently that the Gender Museum in Ukraine has done the same. I feel these two collections will be able to tell us a lot about this time in the future. This made me realize that a resilient and agile museum is a museum about the here and the now. A museum which could actually have an impact on people and on the future is not about the past. It's not about the future neither. It should be about bridging these times, spaces, and people and culture. And I actually connected these to a research project that we held with the Biomimicry Academy in Berlin back last year, and we finished it this year in May. We actually took the model of the ecosystem of a forest to guide us to understand social ecosystems and trying to make sense of what's happening in our society today. The main goal of this research program was to understand how museums could create symbiotic relationships with their audiences and even more with their neighbors. We called it museumhood. The team made an analogy based on the fact that a tree is a forest, that a tree in a forest, can be seen as a museum in its neighborhood. In this model, the flow of information between a museum and the local communities could be seen as nutrients and water transfer between the trees and the mycelium. You know, this fabulous network of mushroom all above the forest, and actually everywhere on this planet. So to summarize quickly, the vision behind this project is to imagine the museum as a tree among other trees in a forest. and neighbors as a mycelium connecting them all. So it is not, we are not thinking about a museum at a center of anything. A museum is just one agent among others. And I actually believe that by being able to understand one's ecosystem and biodiversity is actually the ability to adapt to changing conditions and staying locally attuned while celebrating one's individuality and core features. That's not so easy actually to reach, I'm telling you. But these can be done alone. We need to collaborate. We can't work in silos anymore. We can't work in departments or even within sectors. Yuli, the director of the Women's Museum in Denmark, also explained us that she sees a museum as an organism and not as an organization, where each employee is a cell working on different projects and making things happen together. I love this. The more I understand nature and I listen to resilient systems, like a forest or like the Women's Museum in Aarhus, the more I feel some requisites are essential to imagine regenerative futures. Cultivating collaboration and support, listening deeper and longer, celebrating plurality and understanding the potential of togetherness are keys to foster change. Inspired by this, we have been working on a visual roadmap called Museums on the Climate Journey. This illustration is divided into 4 stepping stones for change, going from the macro to the micro. In our map, the first space for transformation sees museums as a complex and dynamic system composed of a worldwide network of 80,000 agents of change. Imagine the impact that museums could actually have if they start to go towards the same goal. Of course, systemic change starts with a step-by-step adjustment, but those steps should be directed towards transformations of the fundamental features and principle of the system itself, the ecosystem of museums. And this, to my mind, explains the unsolvable debate the museum community is going through about the museum definition. We should also take into consideration that museums are not isolated entities and that they go under the same mission and role in our society. Museums are ruled by a sense of purpose, which define their program and action. The Black Lives Matter movement and the wave of ethical debates raised within museums highlight it even more today. If every museum's move towards a better future, we can have a significant impact on our society. The second level of action is called Use Your Voice, and it recognizes museums as civic platforms. Museums are very respected institutions and super trustworthy, with the ability to add perspective to the public dialogue. Museums have the potential to help in overcoming political and social difficulties and become an accelerator for collective action. We can think about what the Naturkunde Museum in Berlin is doing every Friday when they actually open their doors to the movement Fridays for Future. Or when we see Tate giving the turbine oil for Extinction Rebellion. When we see museums starting to withdraw from fossil fuels sponsors and start ecocide campaigns. These are just few examples, but we can find so many of them. The third level of action, act as neighbors, imagines museums as part of a local ecosystem. This is basically what I told you about, what I told you just before about this biomimicry research, about how museum can actually create this museumhood and become part actually of a neighborhood. You can think about so many different things, like, for instance, creating a community-managed resource center with shared equipment and different kind of unused material that you can share with local organizations or associations or schools or theater. You can start to sell local and sustainable products in your shop. You can start to run upcycling workshops to turn the green space around your museum into a community garden and start offering gardening workshops or permaculture workshop. It depends what your neighbors will actually need for, but just listen, start to talk and start to see how you can help each other. The last level of action is called Turn Your Museum Green. I feel this level is already quite understood by museums, and you can find so many resources online. It is basically about turning your building into a climate positive building, where you can start to adapt some sustainable practices for how you actually manage your waste and energy program. You can start to think about what you sell in your restaurants, the different products that you sell in your shop. It is all about turning your daily life as a building and as a team more climate positive. Also, I wanted to point out that, of course, we start to be very aware that cultural institutions are very huge carbon consumers, but we tend to often forget the digital carbon footprint of a museum. So each time you actually digitized a collection or an object and you put it online, your carbon footprint is getting bigger and bigger. Each time you stream an event, each time you create a page which is not following simple sustainable web design rules, your carbon footprint is getting bigger and bigger. People tend to say that the airplane industry is actually one of the biggest, the heaviest consumer on this planet. It's not really true. Actually, internet is even heavier for the planet than airplane companies. So this is this visual roadmap. I just want to say that we created this visual roadmap among a fabulous multi-year program called Museums Facing Extinction in collaboration with EIT Climate Kick. We started it last November in Berlin. Yeah, that's when we created the roadmap. We are currently using it for different formats, different mentoring programs. We used it to organize a conference to raise awareness on this topic in France in October. And this month, we are actually starting a 6 months program to guide museums in Lithuania to become climate champions and systemic change makers. So this program is really inspired by togetherness and system thinking. And I hope this will actually give us enough time and space and resources to inspire more people, to inspire more museum professionals to start their climate journey and to be this change maker that I kept talking about. I really hope this was useful, inspiring, exciting. Super available if you want to reach out to me via Twitter, LinkedIn, email, or whatsoever. This is just the beginning of a very, very long journey. So please just reach out to me and I wish you a beautiful day. Thank you so much.